Have you ever noticed that sometimes your emotional reactions, the way you handle situations, or even your approach to intimate relationships seems like it's following a script that was written long ago? The truth is, a lot of this probably has to do with your family of origin. As a kid, maybe you heard things like, "If it weren't for you, I would have left your father a long time ago." You understood what that meant, but you had no way to respond. All you knew was that from that moment on, you somehow became the reason your parents weren't happy. You started feeling guilty and began walking on eggshells through life. They'd often say, "Study hard, don't disappoint us." You tried your absolute best. You got a 90 on a test and really wanted to hear some praise, but instead you got, "Did you cheat? How come so-and-so is always first?" You started doubting yourself, wondering if nothing you did would ever be good enough. If your parents were always fighting, you learned early on to read the room, constantly monitoring their moods. People said you were mature for your age, but really you were forcing yourself to grow up because you knew you couldn't cause any more trouble. You didn't dare act spoiled, throw tantrums, or even let yourself be too happy. On the surface you looked calm, but inside you often felt lonely and helpless. If they constantly criticized and put you down, you slowly stopped believing in yourself. As an adult, when opportunities come up, you instinctively back down. At work, when the boss asks, "Who wants to take this on?" You really want to raise your hand, but you end up staying silent. You're worried people will think you're not good enough. Meanwhile, your colleague doesn't hesitate. "I'll do it." You envy their confidence but don't know how to change. If you grew up in a household full of fighting and violence, you learned early to suppress your emotions. You're afraid of conflict, and you're also afraid of hurting others the way they hurt each other. You tell yourself to stay in control, to be rational. But in reality, when you're overwhelmed and about to break down, you suddenly find yourself saying exactly the things you were most afraid to hear as a child. "We sacrificed so much for you," they said over and over. You heard it so much that you started believing any good thing you received came with a price. When people are kind to you, you feel uneasy, like you owe them something. When someone gives you a gift, your first reaction is, "This is too expensive, I can't accept this." But they just casually say, "As long as you're happy." You gradually forget that some people genuinely want to be good to you, not for payback, but because you're worth it. This is what psychology calls the influence of your family of origin. It's not just past memories. It directly affects how you think, how you love, and how you live right now. It creates patterns where you're always careful, always self-critical, always doubting. Many people struggle with depression and anxiety, not because their current life is terrible, but because they were never treated well as children and never had the chance to truly know themselves. You never learned to express emotions in healthy ways, and it's hard to build a stable sense of security. If you're working hard to break free from these influences and trying to live your own life, that means you're already changing. The process will be difficult, but please remember, none of this was ever your fault. You have the right to heal yourself, to build healthy relationships, and to have a more relaxed, happier life. You were always worthy of being treated well. You don't need to prove yourself to earn love. Did you go through something similar? Have you ever had a moment where you suddenly realized you'd become exactly what you never wanted to be as a child?